You know, this isn't just a story about fixing up an old machine. It's really about bringing a piece of history back from the dead, and doing it by reviving the very spirit in which it was first created. Today, we're going to dive into how a rusted-out 1930s Japanese fire engine was brought back to life, not with noisy power tools, but with the quiet, rhythmic strike of hand-forged hammers and ancient, almost forgotten techniques.
And this quote, man, it just sets the stage perfectly, doesn't it? We're talking about something way deeper than just a mechanical repair. The whole project is framed as a resurrection, like returning a soul to this forgotten iron body. It's an approach that puts history and the process itself above everything else.
So let's meet our subject. It's a beautiful but deeply, deeply decayed pre-war Japanese fire engine from the 1930s. Can you imagine? It was hidden for decades under layer after layer of rust. It's a true relic from another time, an icon of early 20th century engineering that had fallen completely silent.
Now, what makes this whole thing so fascinating is the choice they made right at the very beginning. Look, the easy way would have been to just grab grinders, welders, maybe hook it up to a diagnostic computer, but no, they chose the hard path. Hand-forged tools, glowing charcoal embers, and methods as old as the engine itself. They completely rejected modern convenience to chase after historical authenticity.
And this brings us to the big question, the one that drives this whole story. Is it even possible? I mean, really, can you breathe life back into a seized, rusted-out engine using only fire, hammers, and the kind of techniques from a totally bygone era? It's this incredible challenge that pits ancient knowledge against the unstoppable decay of time.
And the challenge here was just immense. We're talking about an engine that was completely seized up, just locked solid by corrosion. The bolts weren't standard sizes you could just go buy at a store. They were a weird pre-war spec. Some crucial internal parts were just gone, lost to time. And on top of all that, there was this deep, pervasive rust that had gotten into everything. The odds were for sure stacked against them.
So why? Why choose this incredibly difficult path? This is where the story shifts from the what to the why. We're about to explore the whole philosophy behind this painstaking approach, which you might call the soul of the forge.
This quote just nails their motivation. It's all about honoring the spirit of the people who originally built it. By using the same methods, the heat of the forge, the impact of the hammer, they weren't just fixing an object. They were creating a connection with its history, with the craftspeople who first brought it to life.
So, this idea of ancestral craftsmanship, what it really boils down to is a philosophy where the process is just as important as the final result. It's all about choosing patience over speed, celebrating manual skill over automated precision, and putting historical integrity above everything else.
Okay, so now we get to see this whole philosophy in action. Let's really look at how these ancient techniques were used to solve the very modern problems of rust and decay that were eating away at this old engine.
Here's a perfect example. To get those non-standard bolts off, they couldn't just go out and buy a wrench, so they had to make one. This slide breaks it down. First, you heat a piece of iron in a traditional pine charcoal fire. Then you hammer it into the exact shape you need on an anvil that's over 100 years old itself. And finally, you carefully file and fit it to that specific bolt. Think about that. They had to forge the tool just to get started on the work.
And that kind of ingenuity just kept going. They thinned down rust using water-cooled whetstones. They cleaned brass parts with fermented rice vinegar. When a part was completely missing, they didn't order a new one. They cast it themselves using molds they carved by hand out of wood. Even the new screws and fasteners were made rust-proof using a traditional oil blackening technique. Every single problem had an ancient solution waiting for it.
Through this process, the work became something more than just labor. With the repetitive, rhythmic strike of steel on iron, the hissing of hot metal, the smell of the charcoal fire, the entire restoration sort of transformed into a kind of meditation, a really deep, focused connection between the person and the object.
So after months, maybe even years of this incredibly painstaking work, all the forging, shaping, cleaning, and casting, we finally arrive at the moment of truth. All the pieces, the old ones and the newly forged ones, are ready to come together. The final assembly begins. Every single hand-forged component is about to be put under stress for the very first time. You can just feel the tension in the air as the restored pump and engine block are pieced back together, one oil-blackened fastener at a time. And then, the first crank.
The manual crank is pulled, testing the strength of the assembly against the friction of those newly freed cylinders. All that work, all that incredible patience, it all comes down to this one single momentous action. Is the engine going to turn? Is it going to catch?
And for a moment, there's nothing. Just silence. The quiet anticipation in that workshop is absolute. Almost a century of stillness is just hanging in the balance.
And then, success. A sputter, a cough, and finally, the engine catches. Right there amidst the smoke of the very forge that helped rebuild it, the machine takes its first breath in nearly 100 years. It's just an incredible, cinematic moment where the past and the present totally collide.
With the engine alive and breathing, the project moves into its final phase. See, this isn't just about a running machine anymore. It's about a legacy that has been reclaimed through sheer willpower and dedication.
And I mean, just look at this transformation. From a corroded, seized, and silent wreck that was left to be forgotten to a functional, gleaming, and living piece of history. This before and after really shows what they accomplished, not just with skill, but with a deep, powerful commitment to a philosophy.
In the end, this soulful journey proves something really vital. It shows that these ancient methods aren't just for nostalgia. They can be a truly sustainable and deeply meaningful way to preserve our history. It's a powerful argument for just slowing down and honoring the process.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In our modern world where we're all obsessed with speed and instant results, what have we actually lost by forgetting the profound value of patience and the deep satisfaction that comes from the process itself?